Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of our MVRK miniseries called Joseph. So last episode we talked about a cupbearer and a baker. And we all remember the cupbearer and the baker were sent to prison and both had dreams that Joseph interpreted. The cupbearer went back to his position beside the Pharaoh. The baker wasn't so lucky. So Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him after Joseph helped him with his dream, but Joseph was forgotten. And now we pick up the story after 2 years have gone by. And Joseph, he seems to be having a normal day in the prison. But far away at Pharaoh's palace, God was working for things in Joseph's favor. Let's take a look at the text. So follow me to Genesis chapter 41, and we're going to bounce around a little bit. So we're going to start from 1 to 4, then jump to 9 to 16, and 22 to 27. So we'll start. 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River. In his dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up from the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. Then he saw 7 more cows come up behind them from the Nile, but these were scrawny and thin. These cows stood beside the fat cows on the riverbank. Then the scrawny cows ate the 7 healthy fat cows. At this point in the dream, Pharaoh woke up. No one in Pharaoh's presence could interpret his dream, and so we jump ahead to a familiar face. Finally, the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. "Today I have been reminded of my failure," he told Pharaoh. "Some time ago you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night, the chief baker and I each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was a young Hebrew man who was in the prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us each of our dreams meant. And everything happened just as he predicted. I was restored to my position as cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole." Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once. He was quickly brought from the prison after he shaved and changed his clothes. He went in and stood before Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it." "It's beyond my power to do this," Joseph replied. "But God can tell you what it meant and set you at ease." So Pharaoh had 2 dreams, but we already heard the first one. So let's get into the second one. Here, verse 22. "In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but they were blighted, shriveled, and withered by the east wind. And the shriveled heads swallowed up the 7 healthy heads. I told these dreams to the magicians, but no one could tell me what they mean." Joseph responded, "Both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later and the 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east wind represent 7 years of famine. This will happen just as it described, for God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do." So Joseph is swept up from prison and brought to Pharaoh, and I can only imagine that Joseph is scared during this time. If Pharaoh is displeased with Joseph, he can execute him in an instant. However, while I'm sure the fear was real, I believe that he was also at peace, knowing that no matter what God's future plan was for Joseph, it was good. So Joseph goes on, and because of his hard work and blessing from God, the cupbearer who he oversaw in prison 2 years ago was reminded of Joseph because of Pharaoh's dream. And God uses Joseph to interpret Pharaoh's dream, and then Pharaoh does something that Joseph probably wasn't even expecting. This part of the text happens just after Joseph tells Pharaoh to find someone who can take care of the crops and prepare for the coming famine. So let's take a look at what is so surprising. Joseph's suggestions were all received by Pharaoh's officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, "Can we find anyone else like this man who obviously is filled with the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has revealed the meaning of the dream to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you are. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on my throne, will have rank higher than yours." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in fine linen clothes and hung a gold chain around his neck. So, Joseph, this is a jaw-dropping moment for him. He just went from scum of Egypt, a foreign slave prisoner in jail for a heinous crime, and in an instant put in control of all of Egypt, the superpower of the world at the time. He has a lot of new challenges ahead of him. And so next episode, we will start Joseph's journey as the second most powerful person in Egypt, maybe even the world. So thanks for joining me.